Have you ever stopped to think what consciousness is really made of? I don't mean the neurons or the brain chemistry. I mean the actual experience of it all. Well, we're about to explore a pretty wild theory, that there's a universal language our minds might all be sharing, a lingua franca of consciousness.
Just look at the screen right now. You see some words, maybe some shapes and colors, but what is that experience? Is it just light hitting your eyeballs and neurons firing? Or is there something much, much more going on? This simple act of seeing, it's way deeper than it seems.
So, the theory we're diving into today suggests that any piece of information you encounter can be broken down into three distinct layers. You've got the physical stuff, like ink on a page. Then you have the rules, like grammar. And finally, you get to the meaning, the actual idea being communicated. Okay, let's get into it. Understanding these three layers is absolutely the key to unlocking this entire puzzle. First up is the physical representation. This is the only part that's, actually tangible. It's the pixels lighting up on this very screen, the sound waves of my voice traveling through the air. It's the concrete stuff you can measure. But honestly, on its own, it's just noise and light. Next, we have the interpretive rules. Now, get this. These are completely abstract. The English language, for example, it's not a physical object you can hold. It's a shared set of conventions, an agreement that lets us turn those physical pixels into words and sentences that make sense. It's basically the decoder ring for reality. And finally, we get to the most crucial layer of all, meaning. The idea of a tree, for instance, isn't stuck to the word tree in English or arbre in French. The meaning itself is totally abstract and can be expressed in a million different ways. And here's the crucial point. Both the rules and the meaning are completely non-physical. And that distinction right there between the physical and the non-physical, that brings us face to face with one of the biggest mysteries in all of science, the consciousness puzzle. I mean, think about it. On one hand, you've got brain activity. It's physical. It's measurable neurons firing. It's an objective process we can study. But on the other hand, you have your subjective experience, that abstract feeling of what red looks like, the sound of music, your very own first-person point of view. How does one possibly become the other? Scientists can see how information gets integrated in the brain. They can watch it happen. But as the philosopher Thomas Nagel pointed out, that doesn't explain who's doing the experiencing. For whom is all this information coming together? Who's home? And that really is the question at the heart of everything, isn't it? How can 3 pounds of physical, biological matter in your skull generate the non-physical, private, and totally meaningful universe that is your inner world? To even begin to answer that, the theory we're exploring today says we've been focusing on the wrong thing all along. Instead of looking at the physical stuff, we need to look at the organizing principles, the actual architecture of our experience.
The first key idea is constraint. Now, a constraint doesn't add any new energy or force to a system. No, what it does is it works by limiting the possibilities. It shapes what can and, just as importantly, what cannot happen.
Think about a riverbed. It doesn't actually push the water along, does it? It just guides its flow. It gives it a path. In the exact same way, constraints in the brain guide the chaotic flow of information, creating stable, organized patterns out of what would otherwise be just noise. All right, the second key idea is even more of a mind-bender. It's called self-indexed modeling. This is how information gets a perspective. It's the moment when a system starts organizing all of its data in relation to a reference point, and that reference point is the system itself.
The absolute best way to picture this is the "You Are Here" icon on a mall map. That little red dot isn't an actual object in the mall, right? It's a reference point that suddenly gives the entire map meaning for you. Well, self-indexing does the exact same thing for your consciousness. It creates that essential for-me quality of every single experience you have.
So, let's put all the pieces together. You have this constant, massive flow of information happening in the brain. Constraint comes along and shapes that flow into stable patterns, just like a riverbed. Then, self-indexing anchors those patterns to a first-person perspective. And the result? Boom! Meaningful, subjective experience. And all of this brings us to the final, really grand implication of this whole framework, the lingua franca hypothesis. This analogy is so important. We tend to think of our language as meaning, but this theory says nope. Language is just an interface, kind of like a web browser. The meaning itself is the website.
a universal shared domain that all the different languages can access.
And here's the key takeaway. The fact that the word tree can be translated into arbre in French or Baum in German, that suggests the meaning of the tree exists independently of any single language. Our words are just different pointers, all pointing to the same abstract concept.
And this is the core claim right here. Meaning isn't just in your head. It's a shared, abstract domain, a common ground, where all of our conscious experiences are built and organized. It is the universal language that, in a way, we all speak.
Now this has a pretty staggering implication. If consciousness is populated by abstract meaning, then experience itself isn't necessarily locked away inside your skull. It's more like your own unique participation in this vast, shared world of meaning. Your brain is the radio, but meaning is the broadcast.
And this leaves us with a final, provocative thought to chew on. If meaning truly is a universal language that structures our very reality, it just forces you to ask, what incredible unseen conversations are we already a part of just by the simple act of being conscious?